tank of gas? Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit.
And welcome once again to the FAFO Podcast. And boy, we got a good one for you today. Yeah, because you know these guys, they're everywhere, right? I got two different little segments we're going to do today, and they both go hand in hand. And why is that? Because, you see, when I approach this subject, it's something that I just feel has gotten way out of control. If we're being honest here, right? We talk about transparency. We talk about honesty. It's gotten out of control. And I'm talking about that internet bully, right? That internet tough guy. You see, the internet didn't invent bullies, but what it did, it simply removed the consequences for these idiots. You know, for thousands of years, every conversation came with accountability. Now, if you insulted someone at the local diner, there was a good chance you'd have to defend your words. If you spread a lie around town, eventually someone would confront you about it. Your reputation mattered because people actually knew who you were. But the internet has changed that overnight. Suddenly, a 17-year-old kid in his parents' basement could lecture a 40-year-old veteran about how to do his job. A person with no military experience could explain combat to decorated veterans. Someone who had never written a book could tell best-selling authors how to write. People who never owned a business. Suddenly, overnight, they became experts on entrepreneurship, while individuals who have never raised children confidently handed out parenting advice to complete strangers. Yeah, anonymity has created confidence where experience never existed. And you know what's fascinating? Here's what's fascinating about all that. What's fascinating is that most online trolls don't actually believe they're trolling. In their minds, they're simply telling it like it is. I'm here to tell it like it is. I'm coming to you live because nobody else has the courage to tell you like it is, but I do. Me and this microphone and this hidden location that I'm not going to disclose to you because I'm truly scared of what may happen if I come out in broad daylight. Right? I mean, come on. They've convinced themselves that every thought deserves to be shared and every opinion deserves the same weight, regardless of whether it's informed by knowledge, experience, or, God forbid, even basic facts. Social media has accelerated this transformation because the algorithms don't reward wisdom. They don't care about wisdom and honesty, truth. They reward engagement. If a thoughtful, nuanced comment gets 5 likes, but an outrageous insult gets 5,000, guess which behavior gets repeated? Guess which one gets put out there for the masses to see? The ignorance. We see it every day. And before long, what happened? Outrage becomes addictive. It's what's happened. All this outrage. You know, the troll, they learn that very angry response, every argument, every quote tweet is another hit of validation. That's what they learn. Now, they may not have built anything meaningful that day, but they made someone else angry, by God. And for some people, that's enough to feel important. You know, the strange irony is that many of the loudest people online are remarkably quiet in the real world. You know, they don't challenge their boss. They don't confront rude customers. They don't walk up to strangers and say the things they type every night. Oh, no. You see, because at night in the quiet, it's not even at night anymore. That's all they do 24/7. But that keyboard becomes their armor. It allows ordinary people to pretend they're fearless without ever having to prove it. So here's the FAFO question as we move into this. Have you ever looked at someone's online comments and thought, there is absolutely no way this person talks like this face to face? You know, that's the truth. We've seen it. Time and time again, we've seen it. It's sad. And why does misery love company so much? You see, people who are fulfilled rarely spend their evenings trying to destroy someone else's day. Think about that. The person who's busy building a business, coaching Little League, writing a novel, raising a family, learning a new skill, or chasing a dream, usually that person doesn't have 6 hours a day to argue with strangers over things that will never affect their lives. But someone who's bitter, someone who's stuck, someone who feels invisible, the internet becomes a place where they can finally feel significant. You know, one negative comment can make them feel like they've influenced someone else's life. It gives them this weird sense of power and righteous invulnerability. And that's a dangerous kind of power because it's incredibly easy to obtain. You know, psychologists have long talked about projection. You've heard this word, projection. People often criticize in others the very things they're insecure about in themselves. The man who constantly mocks successful entrepreneurs is probably secretly regretting never taking a chance on his own dream. The person who ridicules someone else's appearance, probably deeply unhappy with their own. It's the loudest accusations sometimes tells you more about the accuser than the accused. We see this every day. And there's another phenomenon at work here. Right? Envy disguised as morality. You see, sometimes, and I say most of the time, people don't actually want justice. They want someone else to fail. Because it's easier to cheer for failure than to confront your own lack of progress. That's why success attracts criticism. Not because success is wrong, but because it reminds other people of opportunities they never pursued. Think about that. Most trolls aren't trying to improve your life. They're trying to feel better about theirs. We see that sports is a great example of this. We see this in sports all the time. When the New England Patriots first started winning, everybody was a Patriot fan all of a sudden. But the more they won, what happened? People turned. People hated the very thing they loved before. Because that's people. That's what people do. People get jealous and envious. And it's sad because the mob has replaced the village. Truly. The internet no longer waits for facts. It waits for what? The first viral clip. We have watched this so many countless times. These stories explode online before investigators even arrive at the scene. They've already made up their mind. Someone posts a 15-second video with no context. And within an hour, thousands of strangers have already decided who's guilty, who's innocent, who should lose their job, and who deserves to be canceled. Facts have become optional. Narrative has become everything. Look at the Nolan Wells case. We've talked about this Nolan Wells case before. Before any of the facts were publicly known, what happened? Social media had already settled on explanations. Rumors spread faster than verified information any day of the week. Old photographs were passed off as new evidence. Claims were repeated so often they began sounding like established facts. And what do you have? You have all these YouTube content creators, these social media influencers, acting like they've ever spent day one learning how to do an investigation, that they know every aspect of the law. When presented with facts and the truth in front of them, what do they do then? Oh, they're saying that's the lie, even though there's evidence there, and whatever was spilled over here is the truth. All right, they doubled down. How many of these people on the internet have you seen in the Nolan Wells case do this? It's everywhere. It doesn't matter what facts are put out there. They're always going to tread on the other side. Why? Because they want to be part of that process. They want to be part of that rage mob, echo chamber, gaslit mentality. Their brains can't operate outside of it. And then when they're proven wrong, their ego can't handle that. So instead of saying, hey, you know what? I had that wrong. This is actually what happened. They double and triple down on it. And that's not unique to one case. It happens every week. It happens every day. The internet it doesn't reward patience. It rewards certainty. Even when that certainty is completely misplaced. Remember the tape that came out? The supposed audio engineer who wrote the transcript down of what she believed she heard? There's a great comedian out there. He's got all the misheard lyrics, song lyrics, right? And the audio on these songs is so much clearer than the audio on that Cito tape. So much clearer. And how often do we get lyrics to songs wrong? All the time. Classic songs, new songs, all these misheard lyrics, and you're going to tell me that all of a sudden this is the clearest evidence we've ever had? No, it's not. What she did is what happens in these lyrics. You get something in your head, and that's what you hear. You can't be a reasonable thinking human being, not a truly reasonably thinkable human being, and believe that's what happened after watching the video, seeing the timeline, and just seeing how the investigation is going. You're just stupid. There's no other word for it. You're ignorant, willfully so. And the only reason this happens is because people want to place themselves as an expert. Why? It's not for the truth. It's not because they care about Nolan Wells or any of these other things that happen. What they care about is being seen and being heard. It's about attention. And that is something that is as old as humanity. The attention starvedness of people. The internet has just given it a place to spawn and perpetuate. And it just creates this big stew of stupidity. And it has an outlet on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok. They don't truly care about facts or truth or about who did it. They only care about you seeing them. And you try to talk about thinking critically, constructive criticism. And then you got destructive criticism. Because here's the thing, not every critic is a troll. Some criticism truly makes us better. As authors and podcasters, business owners, creators, we need honest feedback. Like someone saying your audio needs work. Or this chapter drags, or I disagree with your conclusion because this can actually help us improve. If you truly care about your craft, you're always looking for things like that. If you're a journalist, your reporting should reflect that. That's criticism. Because here's what a troll will tell you, right? You're an idiot. You suck. Nobody likes you. That you see the difference there? Because one thing attacks the word, the other attacks the person. One is useful, the other is emotional vandalism. So if you can't explain why you disagree without insulting someone, you're probably not contributing to the conversation. You're just throwing rocks because you have nothing else. And there's a bunch of those. Oh, there's a bunch of those morons out there. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Yes. You know that's true. Just people like that. They help nothing. There's no benefit. They're of no benefit. They're not. They're simply out here to cause more problems. They're out here, and what happens? Did mommy not tell you you were loved enough? Did you get enough hugs? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you were coddled too much. Maybe daddy dear said, my boy can do no wrong. He's the bestest one ever, no matter how many times he screws up. Because nobody wants to be honest anymore. Well, it's becoming a rare event. So what's the greatest revenge for garbage like this from people who spew this trash? The greatest revenge isn't winning an argument. You're just going to find yourself in a whirlpool of ignorance if you try to argue with these idiots. And that's just the truth of it. It's just the truth of it. Because when I say idiots, I truly mean that. It's idiotic people who do not understand. They're incapable of understanding. They have no critical thinking skills. Subpar intelligence. And are just clueless. So don't spend your life trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You build, you launch, you write, create anyway. All of those things, do them all. The internet is filled with people who have spent years explaining why someone else's dream won't work. Hell, that went on even before the internet. But you know what happens? While that's going on, the people they criticize did what? They kept working. They kept grinding. You see, success is remarkably quiet, and failure is usually very loud. And usually those are the loudest people in the room. There's always something to blame or someone. Because at the end of the day, trolls don't build civilizations. They don't invent technologies or write history. All they simply do is comment on the people who do that stuff. And long after today's comment sections disappear into forgotten servers, the books will still be on shelves. The businesses will still employ people. The songs will still be played. The families will still remember who showed up. The creators will still have created. History has never remembered the loudest heckler in the crowd. It remembers the people willing to step into the arena despite the heckling. That's the difference between spectators and builders. One consumes, the other creates. And every time you choose to create something instead of tear something down, you've already won. You've already won. I mean, speaking of tearing down, this brings me to my next segment because this flows right in together, I believe. I think I saw this thing this weekend, and it really blew my mind. But it is indicative of where we're at as a society and social media. Did y'all hear this one about this kid who just confessed to picking a fight with a sea lion? Happened in San Diego. Yeah, it did. You see, every once in a while, somebody delivers an FAFO moment so perfectly that there's really no debate who screwed around and found out. Right? There's no debate. This one comes to us from La Jolla Cove in San Diego, where an 18-year-old named Tyler Mule apparently looked at a California sea lion who was just minding its own business and decided, you know what? I'm going to fight that. Now, not metaphorically. He actually tried to fight a sea lion. And because this is 2026, naturally somebody recorded the whole damn thing. Yeah, matter of fact, let's play it.
Federal law. Mule told prosecutors he kicked the animal 4 different times, including twice in the face, according to the attorney's office. When the sea lion tried to get away, Mule chased after it and continued to attack. Prosecutors say the teen referred to himself as UFC fighter Max Holloway during the attack.
There you go. This incident happened late on the evening of July 22nd near Ellen Browning Scripps Park at La Jolla Cove. And according to Mule's own federal plea agreement, a California sea lion was sitting peacefully on a concrete seawall when he approached it with his hands raised as though he were preparing for a fight. Now, apparently, this wasn't ridiculous enough. So while approaching the animal, Mule referred to himself as Max Holloway. You know, the former UFC featherweight champion, Max Holloway? Yeah. So picture the situation. You just seen the video. Now put yourself in that spot. You're an 18-year-old kid. You're staying in one of the most famous wildlife areas in California. There's a protected marine mammal sitting on a wall doing absolutely nothing to you. And somewhere inside your little pea brain, the decision gets made. It's fight night. Let's go. I'm Max Holloway tonight, and I'm going to show this sea lion what's what. So what does Mule do then? Then he forcibly kicks toward the sea lion's face. Looks like he kind of whiffs, but according to federal prosecutors, the animal flinched and recoiled. I think you kind of saw it there on the video. So he kicks towards it again, right? And after that second kick, the sea lion turned and attempted to get away like, I'm done. I'm out. Here's an idiot. I don't want any more of this. And that should have been the moment where whatever common sense remained in this idiot kicked in. But it didn't. It wasn't the moment. It didn't work out for him. Didn't do that. Oh no. Mule chased the animal. And as the sea lion tried to escape along the seawall, Mule kicked it toward it a third time. The animal stumbled while attempting to flee, and Mule delivered a fourth kick before continuing after it. The encounter finally ended when the sea lion managed to get over the wall and escape onto the beach. 4 kicks, at least 2 of them made contact, maybe 3. And all the while, the sea lion was trying to get away from him. Now, those aren't accusations coming from angry people on social media anymore. Mule admitted those facts as part of his guilty plea. And here's where the FAFO portion of tonight's festivities begins. You see, California sea lions aren't props. They're not pets. And they're definitely not unwilling UFC sparring partners. They're protected under the Marine Mammal Protection Act, a federal law that prohibits the harassment, hunting, capture, or killing of marine mammals except under specific authorized circumstances. Now, once that video started spreading online, federal authorities became involved. The NOAA's Office of Law Enforcement investigated the incident. Eventually, the kid, who apparently wanted to pretend he was fighting in the UFC, found himself finding something considerably less entertaining, a federal criminal charge. Now, on August 13, 2026, so this just happened. It was just what brought to my attention. Old Tyler walked into the federal court in San Diego and pleaded guilty to violating the Marine Mammal Protection Act. He couldn't plead any other thing. It's on video. It went viral. It's everywhere. And so now suddenly, this stupid little stunt wasn't so funny anymore, because he faces a potential maximum sentence of 1 year in prison and a $100,000 fine when he's sentenced on October 20th. And why it takes 2 months to sentence somebody, I do not know. But that's what it is. So the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of California, Adam Gordon, he summarized the situation in 4 words. Federal crime, federal consequences. Folks, come on. That's practically the federal government's version of FAFO. And here's what makes this so infuriating. It wasn't like it was a person defending himself from an aggressive animal or accidentally getting too close or like a tourist who didn't understand the rules. No. This is even according to Tyler Mule's own testimony, as he admitted in court. The sea lion was just sitting there chilling, enjoying the evening. When Tyler approached it and tried to go kung fu fighting on it. And then when the animal tried to escape, he followed it. Now, that's an enormous difference between an animal coming after you and you chasing an animal that's desperately trying to get away. Now, let's talk about California sea lions for a second, because apparently this needs explaining. These are wild animals. Do you know how big adult sea lion males can become? They are huge, and they're fast and powerful. They're equipped with some serious teeth, folks, and perfectly capable of defending themselves. The fact that this particular animal chose escape rather than retaliation might be the luckiest thing that happened to this kid that night. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm already imagining the alternative FAFO ending here. Like he's squaring up with that wild sea lion, pretending he's Max Holloway, and the sea lion decides, you know what? I accept your fight. Now that's a completely different viral video. That's the one I want to see. Because when you go picking on something like that as a bully, you deserve what you get. Because now we got to talk about the social media factor. Because Tyler's the one we've been talking about, but he wasn't the only idiot out there that night doing that. He may have been the one actually assaulting the animal, but you had the moron who was filming it. You had the friends out there laughing and giggling over him assaulting this animal. Why was somebody filming? Why were people laughing at it? Why did these bunch of moronic, imbecilic kids think for a second this is a great idea to do? Why did those little thoughts come to your pea brain? That, oh, this is what we should do. Why is it that having a camera pointed at someone suddenly convinces people that doing something incredibly stupid is a good idea? Why? What is that? What makes us do that? We've created this bizarre culture where some people will apparently do almost anything if they believe there's a chance the video might go viral. I mean, come on. We've seen people climb stuff they're not supposed to climb, or try to touch animals they're not supposed to touch, harass somebody, right? We see them try to start fights, pull pranks, just do dumb shit, just dangerous stuff. Because everybody wants that moment. They want the views. They want that attention. Well, he got it. He got it. The video went viral. But just probably not for the reason he wanted. Because instead of becoming internet famous as the guy pretending to be a UFC fighter, he became the defendant in a federal wildlife case. And that's textbook FAFO. That is textbook FAFO. And not only that, but somebody needs to tell him he needs to take some actual fighting classes. You want to fight like Max Holloway? How about taking a course? How about enrolling into one of these gyms? Sign up. There are plenty of these dojos around willing to train you. Because by the way you standing and carrying on, you need the training. Because you suck. You suck. And those people around you laughing with you, they suck. Wild animals aren't your content. They aren't your toys. They aren't there for your entertainment. And they certainly aren't there to prove how tough you are for your buddies or your social media followers. Leave them alone. It's not like you were out there hunting. That's a whole different thing right there. You're not trying to go out there and put food on the table. No, that's not what you're doing. You're just out there being a dick. So just say that. Because here's the truth. Sometimes when you screw around with wildlife, the animal is the one that teaches you the lesson. And then sometimes the United States government does. As old Tyler is finding out right now. So here's a question for the audience. Because I'm curious. So the defendant has pleaded guilty. He faces up to 1 year behind bars and a $100,000 fine. What sentence are you handing down? Do you give an 18-year-old a painful financial lesson that most likely his parents are going to have to pay anyway? You're going to give him community service and wildlife education because he's young? Or do you make an example out of him because he intentionally attacking a defenseless wild animal deserves serious consequences? And here's the ultimate FAFO question. If that sea lion had turned around and absolutely whipped his ass, would you have felt sorry for him? Guys, you are listening to the Fuck Around and Find Out podcast. Facts, truth, no BS. I'll catch you in the next one.
have a tank of gas? Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit, I'm talking from the scar. You can dress up a lie, but it won't get far. They call it toxic.